Okay, so we're gonna now finish the Siman Amir Hashem Tafresh Ayin Ches. In the next section, we're gonna get a nice chazar over here. We were taking a look over here at the Dirshu in footnote 4, which is discussing that nowadays, we're gonna do a zoom in over here, so no one's got to squint in any way, shape, or form. That nowadays. Sheyesh b'bayis or shel chashmal, that we have an amazing technological advantage commonly referred to as electricity. V'im kein mehatam shel shalom bayis kfar ein tzorich boraner. So according to the reasoning of shalom bayis, we don't need the light of the candle, of the Shabbos candle anymore, because Shabbos we're supposed to get pleasure from the Ner Shabbos, and Ner Chanukah we're not allowed to. Therefore, we don't need that anymore. We don't need the Ner Shabbos over the Ner Chanukah anymore because we have the electricity anyways. So therefore, consequently, Ner Chanukah would in fact come before Ner Shabbos, because if the reasoning of Shalom Bayis, aka so that there will be light in the house, no longer exists, so then the reason of pursuing Nisa of Ner Chanukah would certainly override. And don't allow Ner Shabbos to come first because of a far-fetched concern that the electricity might break. Let's take a look straight at the Igros Moshe inside. Igros Moshe is actually saying a bracha on the Ner in general over here in this section. We're not going to go through it due to our time constraints. Ulein kishein yadum asegis liklos Ner Shabbos yayin the Kiddush, to highlight apart someone who can't afford both Ner Shabbos and yayin for Kiddush. Near Patrish Maneu Shika Ner Kashmal. Nowadays that we have something called electricity. Imkain, consequently. Ika Ner Chashmal v'chaser Ner l'kavod Shabbos sheyishim adlekas mevarechas vadi and l'kiddush yom kaddims. Therefore, even he wants to say that the yayin would come first in the next line. He says it's a far-fetched concern that it might get broken, the electricity. That is the sheet of Moshe Feinstein Tatel. Then they bring v'chein hayru hagon v'yizram le'osh v'hagon v'misim kerelitz. They also bring this as well in the Piskei Shmuos. Let's take a look at the Sefer, the Piskei Shmuos inside. Piskei Shmuos, I never heard of the Sefer before. Piskei Shmuos, this Siman, Tafresh Ayin Ches, page Kuf Lamed Hey, Shaila. Timeline we hold. Ner Shabbos, Koidim the Ner Chanukah, that Ner Shabbos what? Comes before Ner Chanukah, Mishum Shalom Bayis, because of the reasoning of Shalom Bayis. Ahim Zehu, Gam Kiyoim Sheyish or Chashma Babayis Ve'in Chashash L'Mechshel. So, does this even apply nowadays that we have electricity in our house and there's no concern that a person might trip or slip because they can't walk? Tshuva, the answer is Nira de Bizmanenu She'in Chashash Ner Chanukah Odif. V'afla Servim She'in Yoitzim Yedei Chovasa Ner Shabbos V'Chashmal. Nowadays, there's no concern. Ner Chanukah would be better. And even according to those who hold that one could fulfill its obligation with Ner Shabbos with electricity, Mikol Makom or Babayis Yesh. Yesh V'Kvar Ein Maniya Shalom Bayis. There's or in the house, and therefore there's no problem. So, therefore, even if you're going to hold like the sheet is that you can't be Yotza, you can't fulfill your obligation with electricity for Ner Shabbos, it seems like you have to look into that when we learn Reish Tam Gimel, because when we learned Havdalah, it seems like if it wasn't fluorescent, then it wouldn't be an issue. But fine, that's a separate discussion. Nevertheless, since there is the Metzius, there's the actuality, there is the existence of light in the room, albeit that it's not from the Ner Shabbos, rather that it's from the electricity, still that will be sufficient, that will be adequate. And therefore, this is the psak of Rav Eliyashiv, as well as Rav Nisim Karelitz, fact-checking what they quote over here, and it's legit. V'chein kasav Agon Moshe Sternbach, Shalosh Juvas Juv and Hogos Gimel Siman Reish as Vav Os Chaf Aleph brings this as well. They actually just had pictures of him lighting the menorah on Yeshiva World News. Chaim Elan, the Ner Shabbos Kodim L'Ner Chanukah Mishum Shalom Bayis Yesh Laim B'Zman Hazeh Sheyish Shvar or Shashma B'Bayis Ve'in Chashash L'Mikshel B'Yichei Agavne Ner Chanukah Adif. For Ner Chanukah still be better. Would still be better. Emes Nachon Udavar Shebazeh Hadar Dina de Ner Chanukah Kodim L'Pitzum Enisa Adif Edoicha Mitzvah D'Rabbanan K'Dmucha V'Gamar. The halacha would in fact be different. However, comes along Rav Chaim Kanievsky argues. He says that even though shafilu bizmanenu sheish or chashmal mikol makom ner Shabbos adavim lahakel. Nowadays, even though we have electricity, nevertheless ner Shabbos will still be better. This is in the sefer called Or Yisrael on pages Kuf Yud Zayin to Kuf Yud Ches. Say over here, bizmanenu that nowadays sheish or electric. Yesh kar mitziyu shalom bayis ner Chanukah would in fact be better. Some say B'Yesharim, but some say Shabbos Maninu Ner Shabbos Adif. Then no, even Ner Shabbos would be better nowadays. Ve'in lahakel, and one cannot be lenient. King Kosevli, more of Rebbe Agon Rechem Kanievsky Shlita at that time. Tangentially, he brings an interesting point in this footnote, which we learned in the past about how last session we learned that. How could it be that if someone doesn't have any money, he's going to have to sell his clothing for Ner Chanukah, but once he gets the money in his hands, then he has to purchase Ner Shabbos, but he didn't need to sell his clothing for Ner Shabbos. We saw the Prima Gadam holds you do. We saw different opinions. Maybe he would use it for Ner Shabbos. In that case, maybe he would use it to Ner Chanukah. Fourth suggestion. Purchase a Ner, which is kosher to light for Chanukah, but invalid to use for Shabbos.
But the money was still in your hand.
Yeah.
Meaning that, you still had the money to purchase the right candle.
100%. That's probably why they didn't say that answer. Akoponim, so this is another tangential point. So this is the machloikas over here. I did some thinking about this before. Okay, so this is the last dare show. I want to just open the Piskei Chuvas momentarily before we conclude with. So there's a short Piskei Chuvas in this Siman. It's only really a one-pager. He says, zoom it in. Nowadays that we have Or Chashmal, for sure, it will be better use the Ner for L'Sar Chanukah. Because they're not sitting in darkness, but we find the Machloikis between the Gdolei Chonim. Could you say the Bracha of the Hablik Ner Shal Shabbos on electricity? That's a side point fine, and then he goes into something else.
Okay.
So it seems like the way that Piskei Chuvas Paskin, it's the way that the Dershu is presenting it, that most Achronim seem to hold that Ner Chanukah would come first. Yeah, Ner Chanukah would win nowadays. Yeah, the Ner Chanukah would in fact win. Actually, yes. You could say perhaps what's the minhag. There's a shach in Hilchos Ksamim in your day of Sadi. It's actually what we're learning now in Kolel, which is he says in the beginning of that Siman in something that is uncommon. Brings a raya from the Rambam. Something that's uncommon, there's no minhag on it because it's so uncommon, anyways. So this is considered davar shein shkiach. It's really not so common, but it seems like at the end of the day, Ner Chanukah will come first. On the notes for the summary, which we'll see tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem, I put on the notes that I just kept the order Ner Shabbos just because it gets too confusing if Ner Chanukah comes first. But I wrote in a footnote that it's not so pashut that way. So, but it seems like bottom line halacha. After I did some thinking about it, some contemplating the Ner Shabbos, the Ner Chanukah would probably come first. I would also like to point out a shtickle chiddush and ha'ara, but okay, to the sugya in this particular concept, which also is noteworthy to point out, which is we saw that there was actually machloikis what the pshat of shalom bayis meant. When the Gemara said that Ner Shabbos comes first, why? Because of shalom bayis, peace in the house, tranquility in the house. What does that mean? So Rashi said, Pashtus, if the lights are off, there's not going to be peace in the house because it's going to be dark. Everyone's going to be upset. However, the Meiri said a completely different mahalach. Remember what the Meiri said? He said it's not going to be shalom bayis because now you're using your one Ner for your mitzvah of Ner Chanukah. Even though true, your wife is also obligated Ner Chanukah, nevertheless, it's considered your mitzvah. So therefore, you're considered like you're using it for your mitzvah. But now, as opposed to Ner Shabbos, who lights the Shabbos candles at home? That's right. I don't light them at home. So therefore, if the mother of the house won't light Ner Shabbos, is she going to be happy? She's not going to be able to? No, she's not going to be happy. She's going to be upset. And furthermore, we know it says in the second parak of Masechah Shabbos, Al Shosha Averos Nashim Mesos B'Shas Lidosim, that women chas v'shalom they could die doing childbirth for three things. Hashem is here, but nida b'chala v'akas ner, because they're not careful with nida chala and lighting the ner. So we see that what? So we see that ner Shabbos there could be she's going to be very upset. Beso could be referring to one's wife ner beso, so she's going to be upset. So according to that reason, that has nothing to do with that with electricity or not. That has to do with her inability to light ner Shabbos, which consequently would cause that even though that we have electricity nowadays, nevertheless ner Shabbos would still come first according to that reason. Also, one could perhaps add that according to the simple reason of shalom bayis, which just means a harmony in the house, similar more to the meiri, because of that reasoning of the meiri. So that's also a whole discussion. Let's conclude with this halicha shalom over here. Over here, he says like this. He says, Hadar lavada b'bayis. This is actually in the halicha shalom on Chanukah on page Reish Hamakibel. Hadar lavada b'bayis, someone who's living by himself in a house. Oba makom sheyesh or if he's living in a place where there is electricity that's being used, however, Chanukah limits was ner Shabbos Chanukah. You can't use it for ner Shabbos or Chanukah or wherever light is being produced. Ve'in lo kiim ner echad. Point is, you only have one ner. Now, this sheds a tremendous amount of light on this incredibly inapplicable sugya. Excuse me, because people say nowadays, how could this be that a person could only afford one ner? There's so many organizations, so many types of stuccos that are given. How could this be? Rather, this could be the following case. Where there is a light, but it's not kosher, and there's only one there, a person in the middle of nowhere. Maybe that could happen. L'Shabbos or Chanukah. What do you use it for? It's a doubt which one's better, our whole sugya. Is that a period over there? Oh, so he doesn't paskin. So he just says there's a suffix over here on this din. There's a suffix. By the way, he says that this applies in the Devar Halacha and Tetzvav. This applies. Bein Isha, this applies whether male or female. There's going to be no difference. And then over here, take a look straight at the footnote over here in 35. Amar Rabbeinu de Misaber Shiyim Chor B'Yadlik L'Shim Ner Chanukah. This is a sheet that seems like you would sell and use it to light Ner Chanukah. Hoyo, since the Hoyo V'no is Chayav Lim Chuzuz Held Mishum Ner Chanukah. Since after all the obligation was only to sell your clothing for Ner Chanukah, Im Kain Lin Ner Shabbos Havilei Ner Zeh Kiksus. So therefore, regarding Ner Shabbos, this Ner Havilei Ner Zeh Kiksus. This candle is like the garment. So he holds that you'd only sell it for Chanukah as a side point. Now let's go through some of the lamdas that he says in the Dvar Halacha. It says like this: Ner Beso is better because of Shalom Bayis. However, Ulam B'Tam Davar Kasim Meiri. Then he quotes the Meiri. B'Shein Yesh Mefarsh B'Shum Emnei Mitzvah Ner Shabbos M'Su'ulai. Yisha is given over to women the mitzvah of Ner Shabbos. L'Fisa B'M Yisha In Lo Isha. If you don't have a wife, excellent point. A bacher. Similarly, a woman who is living by herself, she would be obligated in both Ner Shabbos, Ner Chanukah, right? Consequently, this halacha might change, might be different. Probably done even according to us. Mishum Shalom Beso, who kipshuto lemnoa because of Shalom Bayis, it's best to refrain. Machlaikas. Find Meiri de Beso Zo Ishto. So even according to us that we hold that Shalom Bayis means to refrain of machloikis. Look at the Meiri, Beis was referring to Isha. We're worried. Dilma Asi Lin Suyima, you might come to fight with her. Mikol Makom, nevertheless. Let me go in a few minutes. Mikol Makom, nevertheless, Isha Hayechidim Bebesim. If you have someone who's living by themselves, L'chayra Ner Chanukah Adif. So it comes out consequently that Ner Chanukah would be better. Why? Because there's no reasoning of Shalom Bayis over here. But Ulai, perhaps. Low plug rabbanon. The rabbis didn't differentiate. Upasku, and they said in all cases, even someone living by themselves, the ner of your house will in fact be better, aka ner Shabbos. We haven't found anyone who discussed this case, which could definitely happen. Similarly, if you have light in your house because of the previously mentioned reasons, the sulo no longer applies anymore. But nevertheless, the mitzvah of lighting the ner doesn't exist. Because according to the Meiri, the ner Shabbos would be better, but for us, Sarachian. In other words, you have a massive question over here. If Shalom Bayis just always applies no matter what, or no, if it only applies between a couple who's married. So therefore, if there's a bacher, or if there's a married woman, but for some reason she's by herself, or just single woman, so then maybe Ner Chanukah would in fact proceed in that case. And then he just goes into the Magen Avraham, that the Magen Avraham holds nowadays with the whole darkness situation. He goes into, right? Remember we learned that Magen Avraham. He's going to go into that more. But he says, Sarachin, if you could also make one on one Ner, if you could make two brachos. If you could make Lahadlik Ner Shal Shabbos, Lahadlik Ner Shal Chanukah. Or maybe, oh, the Izbeim Yishum Einos Mitzvah Chavilos. You can't do mitzvahs in bundles. But Gam Ulai Haritart Desatri, it's also a double contradiction, perhaps. That's why it seems like it was only one Ner, and you could only use one Ner for one situation. However, look at the Mishnah Berurah over there. Many Achronim argue on this Magen Avraham. And the Magen Avraham who said that you could use Ner Chanukah and benefit from it, put it on the Shulchan, just like if it's B'shas Sakana Manichal Shulchan V'dayo, they argue on that Magen Avraham. And that's logical to say, because in this situation, you will light, when you're lighting with almost on the condition to benefit from it, you're mamish lighting it lasarcho for your own needs, and you wouldn't be yotzei klal yedei ner Chanukah. You wouldn't fulfill your obligation at all. So that basically is the end of this sugya. I think that we went through every single source over here. We didn't skip one except for the Farska Danya. It was a little unclear in his tshuva. Exactly over there. But any questions or comments pertaining to the sugya? Okay, so Amir Hashem, what we are going to do tomorrow.
And
yeah, what's the question?
I don't know if it's not exactly on the sugya, but if you let's say your wife is lighting and when does it become a chiyuv to light for yourself? Is it on the house or is it on the couple? Meaning if your wife is lighting somewhere else, and can you be someone from that, or do you
Excellent
have to
question. Amir Hashem, we learned some in Reish Shammai Gimel Halakas Ner Shabbos. We're going to learn that, and we learn on another Siman in Hilchos Chanukah. That's gonna get discussed on Chanukah. It's two different simanim, but yeah, it's a tough question. We're gonna have to learn it. So this is the Word document. So we're gonna have to fly through this tomorrow. It's 4 pages, 25 footnotes as of now. Might add this Halicha Shlomo to it. So tomorrow also, due to Rosh Chodesh, we will meet at 9:30 Amir Hashem, and I think in 25 minutes we'll be able to get through this without rushing comfortably. And this was I just want to thank everyone because this was a very enjoyable sugya for me, and I think I got a lot of clarity, and I feel like it's a siman that many people don't learn at all just because it's not applicable. But I think that there are a lot of very important ideas that came out, Yisodas, that ein ma'avir ala mitzvahs, the selling the clothing riddle type of situation. Yeah, just the order in general. I think hashkafically to realize what's most important and why is fundamental to know. And this whole idea with the electricity maybe changing it and all of the reasons, and it was just very enjoyable. It didn't, we spent 6-7 sessions in total on it. So Amir Hashem, tomorrow we will continue. Everyone should have a wonderful day.
Amen.
A
good Chodesh. Have a lavish Suda.
And everyone remember, have a lavish Suda today. But remember, if you're going to have one lavish Suda, tomorrow's the main day to do it because it's the first of the month tomorrow. And during the day, we learned Hilchos Rosh Chodesh. Unfortunately, it wasn't recorded, but we'll get a review. Don't worry. When we finish the whole Orach Chaim, so we'll save that last for the... Look, we're moving.
We are.
You see, we're finishing. We're doing Simanim. And if we do all the smaller Simanim first, we'll feel more accomplished.
What's on deck after Chanukah?
After Chanukah?
We're going back to Reish Samach
I
Gimel.
think we should not Reish Samach Gimel. I think Reish Nun and Reish Mem Beis, Hilchos Shabbos.
Okay.
Maybe we should just start from the beginning of Hilchos Shabbos, Reish Mem Beis.
Okay.
We'll see, yeah. Hilchos Shabbos is great. Yeah. All right. Everyone should have a wonderful day.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
All right, so 9:30 tomorrow.
Yeah, 9:30.